It might be a little bit of an old story, but it's pretty good to kind of rehash. And this is something that was talked about. A lot of us know, right? When we start talking about why, and I say that question, why did Putin invade or military actions? Why did he invade or why did he go into Ukraine? Well, the whole thing is that I would say, did he have a choice at one point? Did Putin have a choice to go in there? Because how like a lot of people like to play both sides, and they say, well, the United States provoked us, but Russia shouldn't have gone in there anyways.
Okay, we went to Iraq with a made-up weapons of mass destruction. They didn't ever exist, and we went in, and then we had a whole long 20-year bullshit failure war off of that much of like, can we afford not to do this? And he had literal weapons of mass destruction from NATO. Like, you put yourself in the shoes of
who's he, though?
Fucking Russia.
Okay.
Were you going to bring NATO up, a nuclear power up to their borders? You think they'd be cool with it?
No, not at all.
But it's just like you're supposed to just not even imagine it. You're like, well, no, we're the world order. We're in charge of the world.
Well, there's a lot of people.
We give the orders.
There's a lot of people that would argue the fact that that wasn't just it, right? NATO was the start of it. The fact that for many years, and there was an agreement that NATO would not expand east towards Russia. That was an agreement made that was broken. And a lot of people think that the action since 2014, when the Ukraine government ceased to be the Ukraine government, the West took it over, Victoria Nuland, the whole 9 yards.
They wanted to be part of the EU as a revolution for freedom. Well, I'm just telling you what
that's what they say.
Standard.
But with that being said, there's a lot of actions that took place, and I would question, did Putin have a choice? Even at one point towards the very end before they came in, and this is 8 years of him trying to push Minsk 1, Minsk 2, trying to make an agreement to get the Donbass where they weren't getting bombed by the Azov battalion, get them back into Ukraine.
I wouldn't even weigh in on it after the debacle that we had for 20 years, to have the balls.
Which debacle? Ukraine, Afghanistan, or Iraq?
Of all the things.
Afghanistan, Iraq.
That
all Latin America.
Here's another important difference between Iraq and Ukraine. There were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq?
Yes.
There were Nazis in Ukraine.
Yes.
And are.
Yes. And we funded them.
And Jon Stewart puts medals on them.
And
the old ones
they're hanging out in the Canadian Parliament. We know this. Listen.
So that's not like a made up weapon of mass destruction. That's a real thing that they have.
That's the thing. When people start looking into this, they have to understand that we had to, we didn't have to, but the CIA or the foreign policy apparatus had to fund the Nazis because they were the only ones that were crazy enough to fire on their own people in the Donbass. Even though they were Russian-speaking Ukrainians, they were still Ukrainians. Right. The regular Ukrainian military wouldn't do that. So we had to fund the craziest radicals, just like we did the Mujahideen, just like we did ISIS, just like we did the Contra. And we can make another Rambo.
I want Dunnigan to make a Rambo 11 with that.
So let's talk about this. This is Secretary General Jens, not Jens. Jens.
Yeah.
Jens Stoltenberg admitting Russia informed NATO before the war that it could avert it by denying membership to Ukraine.
Wait, that he's spreading Putin propaganda?
He is. Here's a video of him. Listen to what he has to say.
President Putin declared in the autumn of 2021, and he actually sent a draft treaty that he wanted NATO to sign to promise no more NATO enlargement. That was what he sent us. And that was a precondition for not invade Ukraine.
So pretty much he's saying, listen, we just want you to keep your promise.
Don't
expand NATO, right?
Wait, the agreement we made, we didn't make, I guess James Baker, was it? Who was it that gave they said a handshake agreement with Yeltsin or whoever, and then...
It wasn't Yeltsin, it was before Yeltsin.
Okay, and then...
Yes. It was when East Germany, there was an East Germany, and they made an agreement that in a handshake, I think it was Gorbachev, but they said, listen, you're going to come in here, you're going to occupy our barracks, we're going to leave. You're going to unite Germany, you're going to liberate them. As long as we have one agreement, you don't go 1 inch east towards our borders.
Right.
But they've been doing it for quite some long.
So a representative, I thought it was James Baker, maybe I'm wrong, but agreed to that. And this is what I heard on the news. Well, they didn't sign anything.
Yeah.
Wow, we must be the biggest scumbags who've ever lit. They didn't sign anything, so we tricked them. Yeah. So that's the untrustworthy guy, Putin.
Yeah.
Not you. Who was he? A Native American? Are we this dishonest?
This kind of feels like a guy who's just telling on himself and doesn't realize he's doing it. He's laying out a story on what happened. It's like you're ratting on yourself, asshole.
Because they all deny. Like you're supposed to number one, I got to be honest with you, my whole life cared about Russia or Ukraine at all, to friend or enemy.
Yeah.
Never had a big feeling about it because I don't live in those places. So this thing where now I'm supposed to feel really strongly for one side.
Yeah.
And then he's going to say that's because they say stuff openly like this all the time. You're supposed to be distracted with the Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter nonsense and project that onto this while they say the actual things that they're saying out loud. You can go tell people that really still believe in Ukraine.
Yeah.
They'll tell you you're a liar spreading Putin propaganda for the thing he just said.
Let's be honest. Those people that are saying, you know, all that BS and kind of pushing back against it, they have either TDS and CDS, you know, all these things. They're just anti-Republican. They're dug their heels in and they're going to say whatever they got to say.
Crystal Bill.
But the majority of people, right, are so consumed that they really don't care what's going on. So they just hear the noise and they go on with their regular day, trying to pay their bills, trying to put food on the table. So the ruling class knows that. That's why they can get away with bullshit like this.
Do you know why Ukraine is going to be done soon? Is because now Fox News is open. So we're like probably what's the other one? The other right-wing news?
Newsmax, yes. OAN.
Because in the beginning, they were all aboard on this, okay? So, I watch it happen. All the people that are like, whatever, boomer age and up, they all suddenly now are against this. I don't know why Fox is suddenly against it.
Well, Fox not completely. There's still Hannity that's there. There's still, I think Neil Cavuto is still there. I think in Newsmax, what's her name?
Jim Varney was
Greta Van Susteren. I think, I'm not sure. I haven't checked in with these people lately, but I haven't heard anything from some of the conservatives. It's just like it is in Congress. There's conservatives that are for it, and there's populist right conservatives that are against it. But they're only against it because they look at it as Biden's war and money being wasted. They'll be happy with a war with China.
I just mean the average Joe Bag of Donuts and whatever, Susie Sixpack, that don't really know about it. They're now I'm seeing people be like against it who, if you brought it up to them, they would know nothing.
Well,
or
Putin,
say, or they
now
say
it's that. Let's listen to the Jens Bag of Donuts over here.
Jens Bag of Donuts.
Of course, we didn't sign that. The opposite happened. He wanted us to sign a promise never to enlarge NATO. He wanted us to remove our military infrastructure
like promised.
In all allies that have joined NATO since 1997, meaning half of NATO, all the Central and Eastern Europe. We should remove NATO from that part of our alliance, introducing some kind of E and B or second-class membership. We rejected that. So he went to war to prevent more NATO close to his borders. He has got the exact opposite. He has got more NATO presence in the eastern part of the alliance, and he has also seen that Finland has already joined the alliance.
This guy's like telling on himself. Like the part where he says he went to war to stop NATO going on his borders. Like, yeah, I think his citizens wanted that. I think a lot of his citizens were pissed off that he dragged his feet and didn't get involved because it was ethnic Russians getting slaughtered in Donbass. Also, can you imagine if there were Americans that were living on the border of Mexico and they were getting bombed? Living in Mexico on the border of the United States, getting bombed by the Mexicans, how quickly do you think the United States would go in there to protect those expat Americans that were getting bombed by AMLO?
I know. I live by a double standard.
Yes.
So I don't recognize any of those things. Go ahead, say all the things.
Yeah.
I don't call it American exceptionalism.
Yeah.
Believe it.
And Sweden will soon be a full member. This is good for the Nordic countries. It's good for Finland and Sweden. And it's also good for NATO, and it demonstrates that when President Putin invaded a European country to prevent more NATO, he's getting the exact opposite.
Oh, well, that's a way of snatching some kind of victory from this unbelievable abject defeat.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg declares the Ukraine proxy war a fight for NATO expansion and the limitless right to place military installation on Russia's frontiers. Something no Western power would accept from an adversary. Just like I said.
The liberal world order. Could that sound any creepier?
No.
The post-World War II world order can do whatever the hell it wants.
Yep. But this is because of years and years and years of not worrying about actual war coming to your doorstep. In the United States, people are privileged. They don't have to worry about the fact that they have to live like a war zone.
Well, we outsourced a war now.
Yeah.
We actually have outsourced all the things, our viral research, all the things that suck now is all from outsourcing.
Yes.
And then they came up with, why don't we outsource this war?
Yeah. It's the public-private relationship.
It's 5%.
Can you imagine Russians that have to worry about a war on their doorstep? You got all the Baltic countries with missiles pointed at them. Now you got this going on. You got drones hitting deep inside Moscow.
I can imagine, just knowing Russians or also Americans or any other people, they don't all turn on the leader when somebody is being unfair to them. They actually, if you don't like the leader, they like him better than ever now.
Yeah.
Anybody I know that's Russian, that's how they talk about it, except Gary Kasparov. I don't know what their beef is. But otherwise, they love that guy. It's like when everybody rallied around George W. Bush.
Yeah.
He wasn't the brightest.
No.
Everyone rallied around him because of 9/11.
Because they believed that it was, what it was. So here is, this is another one right here. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg revealed that Russia offered not to invade Ukraine if the alliance would agree to deny Zelensky's membership. Our refusal triggered the war. We are complicit. And that's what I've been saying all the time. The American foreign policy apparatus doesn't care who wins the war. They don't care who loses the war. They just care that they have the war, because then their money laundering scheme can go on. The war machine gets their money. They get the money to fund the war, to buy the missiles, to buy the weaponry. They get the money to rebuild it after they blow it up, and the Clinton Global Initiative and other NGOs will come piling on in. Everybody in this whole group, this small little tiny group, the war machine, makes money.
But what this is to spin, like it's finding a positive in this thing that's not going well.
Yeah.
So the main reason I think they would outright say that is like, well, now there's more NATO than ever. Like, I think he's trying to, he's saying it like an idiot, but they're trying to imply like, oh, because Putin jumped the gun, but NATO wasn't doing anything wrong. Well, now we're definitely like, that's to take a win out of this thing. That's like,
he thinks it's a good thing, but I hope a lot of the countries are more like the Polish people, right? They're like, we're not playing around no more. They did a complete 180. I don't think they were prepared for this. Antony Blinken and Joe Biden, when Poland said, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to fund this. We got an election coming up. We're done. It's completely the opposite of where they were before. So this is Caitlin Johnson over here. I love how it's no longer seriously disputed that NATO expansion provoked this war, and even the head of NATO now admits it. So now, empire apologists, that's your friends, only argument is claiming that Russia simply shouldn't have viewed NATO expansion as a threat, as though that's an answer. Well, NATO's allowed to do this stuff, but Kurt, we have the same type of people in the United States who go, well, if we aren't the policemen of the world, then China or Russia's going to step in. Really? Can you tell me how, when China has like 2 bases outside of its own country, when we have over 800?
Hey, also... So let them do that. It's like, okay, they're the police of the world. Yeah. That means we can beat up the cops. Why would you want to be in charge of that unless you're like an absolute maniac that sees everyone as a pawn in like a game of grain and fuel?
Because, Kurt, this is also about the way we have this empire education, the way we program our children in school, the way we were programmed to think that we are Captain America, going around to these countries, spreading liberty and democracy. Yeah. Who should be?
Crystal Bill should be on trial.
Bill Kristol?
The guy who made that. The
Republican one? It's Bill Kristol.
I'm looking at his old... I was looking at old videos about Bill Kristol. Yeah. Maybe you brought up that debate. I saw you bring it up.
Well, it's funny because look who she's talking about, Scott Horton, who had that debate. Scott Horton was just being Scott Horton, drinking a Dr. Pepper and just beating Bill Kristol up about the Iraq war. He was like sweating bullets during this whole debate.
He doesn't expect to be quit. But I forgot this idiot in the 90s before the second war. Bombing Iraq is not enough.
Nope.
Him and Victoria Nuland's pig husband wrote a thing together about how we got to invade. This is before
Robert Kagan.
That's unreal.
Yeah, Robert Kagan. Dude, like these guys are war hawks to the degree.
But you still show your face after you were that wrong, you son of a bitch. Yeah. And you're still using the same argument. Well, we have to do this or else we're going to be attacked. That hasn't been true the last 4 or 5 times.
That's why I became a Democrat at that time during the Iraq war, because they said those things, those preemptive attacks they're talking about. And we just saw, me and my mother watched the Vice movie the other
assault. If you go to court and argue you had to preemptively
I had to punch him before she punched me, right?
There's no law. I mean, like the
pre-crime, Kurt.
Yeah, we've been doing pre-crime. What kind of cops are we? Yeah. We're not even a cop.
Well, that's the thing. And the whole thing is that Americans are so detached from what goes on in our foreign policy.
None of my business.
It is your business. That's where our money's being spent. And listen, all the tactics they practice overseas, they'll eventually bring them on home to us. Take a look at this. And that, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen the Scott Horton debate with Bill Kristol, please go watch it. It is amazing. Hat tip. I think I meant to say hot tip to hat tip. No, tip in my hat to Scott Horton Show for spotlighting this overlooked April 22 article in Yahoo News, which reported that the U.S. intelligence cartel had calculated before the war that pouring weapons into Ukraine would be a huge provocation for Moscow to invade. So they were doing it. They were tempting them to do it. And it says down. Let's go to the next page.
Wait, is this the thing? This isn't the thing from Rand, is it?
No. Why would you want to give these things if it's just going to increase the chances that Russia does something? Well, I don't know. Maybe you would do it if Russia does do that because that's what you want them to do. That's what we always wanted them to do. We wanted them to invade. You know that Putin's own citizens were pissed off. About 80% of them were mad that he was dragging his feet for 8 years trying to work Minsk 1 and Minsk 2. Like they said, why don't you get involved? Yanukovych, the president who had to flee after the color revolution when Ukraine ceased to be Ukraine and became just a Western proxy, he said while he was fleeing Putin, you're going to have to get involved. They're going to arm these Azov battalion, the craziest fanatical guys we have in this country, and they're going to fire weapons at our own citizens in the Donbass. They told them that right away. That's how they knew what was going on. We knew exactly what we were doing, Kurt.
Okay, just the fact that you'd have a proxy war and brag about it means you're kind of a POS country. Like, to the very idea that you would be proud of that. Hey, we got rid of our hand-me-down weapons and somebody else fought a war for us. That's the most despicable thing I've ever heard bragged about.
Just the weapons on the shelf. Yeah. Bill Kristol said in his thing. With it is the risk of a deadly Russian response, some CIA officials believed at the time. No, they didn't believe it. They counted on it. America, baby, addicted to war. Drawing this picture of this ever-increasing relationship between the U.S. and Ukraine was that Russia felt significantly provoked over Ukraine. They knew it would provoke them. We understood that they would never allow it. The history of Ukraine, it would never be allowed to have weapons on their border. They would never allow it.
The history of America, we do not allow it.
Yeah, we knew that Russia would never allow this. We knew that this would draw Russia in the war, and that's what we wanted to. We wanted to bleed Russia, but hey, Kurt, it's only 3.5% of our war budget, and guess what? It's just weapons on the shelf. We can do this, and not one American life, Kurt.
Yeah, they keep going. It's worth it to kill Russians. So it's not just Putin. You want to kill all. I've never had a feeling in my life of I wanted to kill this nation of people like that. I don't remember the Iraq War. No, it's just a terrorist. We're not trying to kill Iraqis.
That's it. We're going to liberate. We're going to liberate them. We're going to liberate them for Saddam Hussein. We watched that movie the other day, me and my mom, Vice, with Dick Cheney and what he did. He counted on it. He wanted that oil. And that's why Wesley Clark had that whole map. We're going to go into this country, that country, this country.
No, I dismissed all of that when people said it to me. I dismissed them as idiots.
Well, the question is, Kurt, and I keep
asking.
asking.
We're not going to kill people just for... I said that.
The question is, Kurt, what do we do about it? That's the question. So here's the head of NATO called on the Ukrainians to prepare for a long war. Hey, Ukrainians, we're going to use you as a proxy. We're going to waste your lives. There's almost 500,000 of them now in the meat grinder killed. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says NATO is committed to a quick peace in Ukraine. At the same time, he called for preparations for a long war. So they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. Most wars last longer than expected when they started, he added in an interview with German media group Funk. I can't say it in the German way. It is noteworthy that in his words, he indirectly confirmed the complete failure of the Ukrainian armed forces counteroffensive in the Zaporizhzhia direction.
Dude, I hope that they shut the government down and then still give Ukraine money.
They said that.
Yeah, I hope that happens so much because that escalation, first of all, that'll ruin them. When people, when the amount of stuff that's going to screw up, and then people hear like Lahaina, oh, you're giving it all to Ukraine.
Yes,
that's going to be like the most destructive thing to the establishment. You know,
I hope,
and it's not a nuclear war. That's the best part.
Yeah,
it's an escalation just within the shit bomb DC and not an actual nuclear war like they were not afraid of doing.
You know, dude, like I keep saying to myself, what is going to be the breaking point for Americans to get involved and go crazy, right?
I hope it's this, dude. That would be getting.
I always thought it would be elections, like another election. Like, nope, that's it. But you know, they made sure they quell or shut down anybody who wants to speak out against elections. That's what January 6th was also about, to make sure that nobody could ever speak up again about elections ever again. This is Mick Wallace. Mick Wallace is in the Ireland Parliament. I got to meet him in Nicaragua when he went on his own accord to go see that election, and we got to witness it together. He spoke at the Irish Parliament the other day about this ongoing war in Ukraine. Check it out.
Last week we discussed the Ukraine facility. 50 billion over 4 years for reconstruction while the bombs still rain down. We have a 20 billion Ukraine weapon fund, 5 billion for 4 years, even if the war ends. This week, we vote on a 300 million procurement subsidy. This on top of the 500 million package for ammunition production last week, or in July. And we wait to hear from the Commission about the European Defence Production Act, more subsidies for the merchants of debt. Ukrainians are getting decimated, and the arms industry and their investors are laughing all the way to the bank. Half of the arms companies drawn down the EU funds are embroiled in corruption scandals, while Ukraine is a basket case of corruption itself, and we can't throw enough of money at them. The EU is losing the plot. US officials are talking about getting ready for a long war. At this rate, it'll cost over $1 trillion for reconstruction, and an entire generation of Ukrainian men will be dead. When will we start working for peace? What in God's name is wrong with us?
That is Mick Wallace of the Ireland Parliament, congressional
If John
member.
Fetterman said stuff like that,
Yeah.
I wouldn't care about his sweatshirt and board shorts.
Yeah, if he did, but he doesn't. Instead, he's just...
He goes, yeah, well, make sure you have full support for Ukraine. What a collection of the same idiots you saw in Canadian Parliament, all applauding, mooing like cows together.
Yeah.
When I was wrong, that guy that fought Russia in World War II, the guy that took the hit for Trudeau, he did. Somebody pointed out on another video, and they're right. When he's reading that, his eyebrows go up like he's realizing right there, like, wait, that doesn't sound right. I missed it, but I looked at it, he 100% looks like that. That's every one of these idiots. That's how you know you elected a moron if they're saying that.
Did we elect him, Kurt?
Who?
Did we elect
Not
them?
Biden, obviously.
Any of them at this point, right?
I don't know.
I'm not saying anything. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it.
I don't know how they get elected, to be honest.
I keep questioning that all the time.
But I
How
can't
does
read.
Congress have a 75% disapproval rate but a 90% retention rate?
I thought you meant
Answer that question. Answer that question.
I
And
was
then,
just thinking about that today.
Yeah.
And also a 90% stock pick rate
well,
for
obviously,
great returns.
Nancy Pelosi says it's all fine and dandy.
Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Tampa, Boca Raton, Orlando, Dallas, Houston, San Diego, Bloomington, Illinois, Indianapolis, and Levittown, New York. Wow, that's a lot of dates. See you there.